Covidiot tourists on rampage. Travelers throng the hills. Weddings now super spreader event. Mad rush at the vaccination centers. COVID norms blatantly being violated. Prime Minister Modi warns the Covididiots. Covididiots inviting the third wave. Amid the threat of a possible third wave, many people are still violating COVID norms. I now take you to Bihar's Hajipur. People were seen flouting COVID norms during a wedding celebration. No social distancing was seen, and there are many people who are not even wearing a mask. The wedding organizers have now employed also women dancers to regale the guests who are seen assembling together, and as always without maintaining a basic 6 feet distance from each other. Shockingly, there are also people who can be seen carrying firearms in this visual. We call them the Covididiots for a reason, because they are not putting only their own life in peril, they often could just become potential super spreaders and put their family's life also at risk. Suffering from the pandemic blues. Thousands of people expectedly, and especially North India with the rising temperature, have taken off for the hill stations. These are tourist hotspots that are now brimming with crowds. Tourism has revived, so has economy. But from hundreds frolicking at a waterfall in Mussoorie to hordes of travelers hitting the Mall Road in Simla and Manali, there is a rise in revenge travel. That's a new term that has come up, and that revenge travel could seriously derail India's COVID fight. Take a look.
कोरोना तो जब पंजाब में थे तभी नहीं हमने माना कोरोना कोई चीज है। जब कोरोना था तब भी जिंदगी जी रहे थे और आज भी जी रहे हैं।
कह रहे हैं कि तीसरी लहर भी आएगी, उससे डर लग रहा है?
कुछ डर नहीं है, डर लग रहा तो घर में बैठे होते।
हम तो आपसे सुन रहे कि तीसरी लहर आएगी।
आएगी नहीं?
नहीं आएगी, हमें तो नहीं लगता कि आएगी।
Playing in the snow, riding horses and yaks, standing under a waterfall. This is how Covidiots are putting India's COVID fight at risk. Curbs have been relaxed, and that means people have thronged hill stations in Himachal Pradesh. This is how people are holidaying at the Rohtang Pass. No questions of wearing masks or maintaining social distancing.
The local administration, they are saying they are constantly asking the tourists to wear the masks, but still people are defying the COVID-19 norms besides the social distancing.
After these images of tourists frolicking at the Kempty Falls in Mussoorie went viral, the Uttarakhand government has cracked the whip. The Tehri Garhwal administration has now said that only 50 people will be allowed here at a time, and that tourists will not be allowed to stay beyond 30 minutes. Tourists are thronging the hill stations in the north. They have said no to distancing and no to masks. All they seem to want is some reprieve from the heat and the pandemic blues.
भीड़ से दूर रहने का समय निकल गया, अब आप घूमने फिरने आओ, नज़ारे लो जिंदगी के।
कोरोना का डर तो है, लेकिन घर में हम बहुत बोर हो चुके हैं बैठ बैठ के, इसलिए तो थोड़ी आउटिंग करने का मन हुआ, इसलिए निकले हैं।
दिल्ली हुई या आसपास कहीं पे भी लोग ना फ्रस्ट्रेट हो चुके हैं, उनको निकलना है बाहर। और हम खुद इतने फ्रस्ट्रेट हो गए थे दिल्ली में रह कि कोरोना की वजह से, लॉकडाउन की वजह से, तो एक ब्रेक चाहिए था।
Hotels are fully booked. Tourists are forced to sleep in their cars at parking lots. Raising alarm bells over the frightening situation in the hills, the Union Health Ministry has taken up the matter with Himachal Pradesh government. The rush, however, has brought some cheer to the tourism industry. But even hotel owners acknowledge the risk of flouting norms.
See, we as hoteliers, we are always requesting people to wear masks. In fact, we don't allow anyone without mask to enter our hotels. And tourists who are not carrying masks, we give them masks when they go out of the hotel, and we always request them whenever they go out, when they are on the mall or anywhere else, to wear the mask at all times. Despite that, we see, yes, some tourists we see, they are not wearing masks, and I think they should be dealt with strictly.
As daily cases dip, the urge to beat the pandemic fatigue is real. But with a bulk of India's population largely unvaccinated, the risk runs high. And to all the Covidiots, the pandemic is far from over. Bureau Report, India Today.
Revenge travel to beat the pandemic blues can become a major cause of concern because experts now fear that a careless attitude of people who are heading to different locations can just ignite the third wave, especially if precautions and caution are not taken. Here's a report.
It is being called revenge travel. People fed up staying at home have taken to travel in a big way. From Shimla to Mussoorie, hill stations in North India are full. Covid norms lay in tatters. Hundreds of tourists have thronged the Rohtang Pass in Himachal Pradesh. And it goes without saying, no one is following any COVID-appropriate behavior.
कोरोना तो जब पंजाब में थे तभी नहीं हमने माना कोरोना कोई चीज है। जब कोरोना था तब भी जिंदगी जी रहे थे और आज भी जी रहे हैं।
Many tourists believe there is no threat of a third wave.
हम तो आपसे सुन रहे हैं कि तीसरी लहर आएगी।
आएगी नहीं?
नहीं आएगी।
And even if a third wave comes, they say they don't care.
और कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता अब तो।
Over a few weeks ago, India was gasping for breath. Pleas for help flooded social media. And weeks later, all that seems to be a distant memory. India does not seem to have learnt its lessons and seems to be inviting another surge. With Manjeet Sehgal in Himachal, Bureau Report, India Today.
Across India, Covididiots, as we call them here on India Today, have been violating norms, leading to an increase in cases and inviting a potential third wave. From politicians to the common man, nobody is taking precautions, it appears, to maintain basic COVID protocol. Take a look at how different areas across the country, people are seen violating norms against the pandemic.
There are heroes. There are villains. And then there are Covidiots. These visuals are not from pre-Covid era. These images show a royal welcome of newly elected president of BJP in Tamil Nadu. Not 10, 20 or 50, there are hundreds of party workers who can be seen violating Covid norms. Social distancing has gone for a toss. Even Annamalai, an erstwhile IPS officer before joining the BJP, is seen flouting COVID guidelines. Another BJP leader and Maharashtra MLA Pankaja Munde was seen speaking in public amid a crowd, but without a mask and no social distancing. If you think that vaccination centers can help you fight COVID, then think twice. These visuals are from a vaccination center in Gopalganj, Bihar. There was chaos all around as the crowd indulged in throwing chairs and jostling as the wait for vaccine got longer. Social distancing norms went for a toss amid the shocking free-for-all.
कल भी आए थे तो कल भी शाम को 4 बजे तक खड़े रहे। जब 4 बजे तो इन लोग बोले कि वैक्सीन खत्म हो गया है, इनका ड्यूटी खत्म, वैक्सीन खत्म। सुबह से इस समय तक 4 आदमी को दिया गया है।
यहाँ लगभग 500 से ज़्यादा भीड़ है। नीतीश कुमार बोलते हैं कि ये जाब लगाओ, ये जाब लगाओ। ये अम्बेडकर भवन है, इसमें कोई जाब लगा है? यहाँ कोई प्रशासन है, वो भी जाब नहीं लगाया।
In Rajasthan's Dausa, devotees put faith above COVID safety by thronging the revered Balaji temple. Again without masks or maintaining the mandatory 6 feet distance from others for COVID safety. The shocking violations mock Prime Minister Narendra Modi's appeal to ensure COVID safety at all costs to avoid third wave.
एक्सपर्ट भी बार बार ये चेतावनी दे रहे हैं कि असावधानी, लापरवाही, भीड़भाड़ ऐसे कारणों से कोरोना संक्रमण में भारी उछाल आ सकता है। आज सवाल ये होना चाहिए हमारे मन में कि तीसरी लहर को आने से कैसे रोकना है।
So have we forgotten the death and despair of second wave and willfully ignoring warnings of health experts about a third wave, possibly bigger in magnitude? Bureau Report, India Today.
Indian Medical Association has expressed concern on Monday over governments and even people being complacent, letting their guard down and engaging in mass gatherings without following basic COVID-19 protocols. However, political compulsions may invite and make the third wave to be even more savage than planned. Here's a news report on that.
Under fire for being allowed to take place. The annual Covidiots has become a big COVID test for Yogi Adityanath's Uttar Pradesh. After strong words by the Supreme Court, the religious yatra will gauge the commitment of poll-bound states to COVID safety. But then who has allowed this? Hundreds of devotees participating in the annual religious procession of one of the most important dargahs of Hyderabad. Huge crowds swarming around old Hyderabad's Charminar area, and not for the first time. And what about the fact that Kerala's Chief Minister has decided to relax lockdown norms to facilitate Eid shoppers next week? This in a state that's seeing a sharp rise in COVID-19 numbers, leading into the expected third wave. Or Kerala's famous hill shrine of Sabrimala, which opens today to a maximum 5,000 devotees over a 5-day period. The temple's managers have committed to strict COVID checking norms. But at a time when religious congregations of any kind are being prohibited, why is this being allowed? These religion-based crowds fly not only in the face of the spirit of the Supreme Court's concerns pointed at the Covidiots, but also the Indian Medical Association's stern appeal and warning that such crowds could accelerate and worsen the third wave.
We are leaving it to the decision of the government to take appropriate decision on that, but it is our duty to caution the government and appeal to the government that at this moment any mass gathering at any pretext is going to be a disastrous effect for our country.
The selective actions are plain to see even across state borders. While Telangana has helplessly watched religious crowds break COVID advisories and norms, across the border in Andhra Pradesh, the Jagan Reddy government has issued precautionary guidelines for the Bakrid, ordering that prayers will not be performed in Eidgahs or at open places, but only in mosques with 50% occupancy and social distancing norms followed. In a vibrant country like India, religious fervor and tradition has been a visible victim of the pandemic. But could political compulsions invite the third wave to be more savage than planned? Bureau Report, India Today.
Prime Minister Modi has issued a second warning now to people who have been seen flouting norms. He has expressed concern over visuals that are coming in of crowds at different locations, from hill stations to cities as well. Prime Minister Modi now urging people to act responsibly so at least the third COVID wave can be prevented, given the situation we saw at the peak in April and May. Take a look at this report.
Maskless tourists at Kempty Falls in Mussoorie throwing social distancing norms to the wind. Tourists flocking to the hills without any precautions. As the pandemic revenge travel continues unabated, Prime Minister Narendra Modi issued yet another warning to Covidiots. His second in less than a week. during his interaction with chief ministers from the northeast.
कि हिल स्टेशन में, मार्केट्स में बिना मास्क पहने, बिना प्रोटोकॉल का अमल किए बिना भारी भीड़ का उमड़ना, मैं समझता हूं एक चिंता का विषय है, ठीक नहीं है। कभी-कभी लोग सवाल पूछते हैं तीसरी लहर की क्या तैयारी की है, तीसरी लहर के लिए आप क्या करेंगे। आज सवाल ये होना चाहिए हमारे मन में कि तीसरी लहर को आने से कैसे रोकना है।
With fears of a possible third wave looming large, Prime Minister's first big warning had come at the first cabinet meet on Thursday after the big reshuffle. The Prime Minister told his Council of Ministers that images of crowded places and people moving without masks is not a pleasant sight. He said there is a need to instill a sense of fear in people. Prime Minister Modi added, there should be no place for carelessness and complacency. A second mistake would have far-reaching consequences. The Prime Minister's warning comes even as thousands are heading to the hills to get some respite from the heat wave that is scorching North Indian plains.
मास्क सभी को लगाना चाहिए, डिस्टेंस रखना चाहिए, जितना कंट्रोल हो रहा है अब भगवान करे इस साल में ये बिल्कुल यहाँ से खत्म हो जाए।
काफ़ी टाइम बाद अभी घर से निकले हैं तो यहाँ देख रहे हैं, लेकिन क्राउड बहुत ज़्यादा है यहाँ पर।
बाहर निकले हैं, थोड़ा अपने आप को मन को एंजॉय करने के लिए निकले हैं, अभी थोड़ा रिलैक्स हो, लेकिन थोड़ा मन में डर भी है, कोरोना है, थोड़ा मतलब डिस्टेंस रखना चाहिए।
Though daily COVID cases have plummeted, there is no room to drop guard. But if Covidiots don't mend their ways, we will be inviting a third wave. Bureau Report, India Today.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier urged citizens to strictly follow COVID norms and not to be careless despite the dip in COVID cases. A clear warning appears to have now been sounded that carelessness can trigger a fresh wave. Why you must take all precautions and still practice the COVID protocol. Take a look at this report.
कोरोना को फिर से हावी नहीं होने देना है, क्योंकि कोरोना संक्रमण की दर धीमी जरूर हुई है, लेकिन लापरवाही बढ़ी तो ये प्रचंड लहर में बदल भी सकती है। दुनिया के कई देशों के ये अनुभव आज हमारे सामने हैं, इसलिए हमें सारे नियम कायदों का सख्ती से पालन करते रहना है।
A video from Himachal Pradesh, the hill state, has now started a serious conversation online. In this viral video, there's a little boy and he is urging people to wear masks on the streets of Dharamshala, which is a popular tourist spot. But it appears that there are adults who are smiling, not really bothered, continue to walk past him and are not even seen wearing a mask and are flouting a lot of COVID norms. Why is this visual now so viral on social media? Take a look.
He doesn't have any footwear. He wears ragged clothes. But he ensures he has his mask on. This little boy has better sense than the educated people around him. Little Amit schooled people on the bustling streets of Dharamshala in Himachal by hitting them with a stick and constantly asking, "Where is your mask? Why aren't you wearing a mask?" The video has now gone viral on social media and taken the internet by storm, with netizens lauding the boy's effort and slamming the Covidiots. Appreciating the efforts of Amit, the Himachal Pradesh police has now appointed him an anti-Covid mascot. We spoke to this little Covid hero who dreams of becoming a cop one day, and he's clearly born for the job.
पुलिस बनना है तो उसके लिए तो पढ़ना पड़ेगा, गुब्बारे बेचना छोड़ना पड़ेगा। पढ़ोगे?
Amit's parents are daily wage earners and he helps them sell balloons every day. His adorable appeal video has led to a nationwide drive to provide financial support and sponsor Amit's education.
उसने वीडियो में जूते भी नहीं पहने थे तो कुछ लोगों ने उसके जूतों के लिए और कपड़ों के लिए पैसे भेजे हैं और काफ़ी लोग ये भी बोल के आगे आ रहे हैं कि हम उसकी एजुकेशन में भी उसके हम मदद करना चाहते हैं कि पढ़ लिख के कुछ अच्छा उसका फ्यूचर बने।
Amit fears of a third COVID wave which could affect kids. This little boy knows what it takes to battle the deadly COVID virus better than all the so-called educated tourists around him. Let's all do our bit and follow this little COVID hero's example. Bureau Report, India Today.
Thank you.